So sometimes when we paint on this screen, on this glass, it's just a reflection of something important, you know? But these patterns that we draw from society and from structures within our home, this is where our biases come in. And it may be subtle, and painting on this glass is not as straightforward as something as we can picture, right? Because we're painting like heavy concepts that we don't completely we don't discuss. So one of the things we paint on this screen is discrimination, bigotry, hatred, othering, you know, all this stuff. We do paint it on our glass, whether we want to or not. And one example for me is, you know, my dad isn't like, he doesn't admit to being a misogynist, but he does perpetuate a lot of bad misogynistic viewpoints. And he sort of, his life is led by this huge bias, right? So I picture his screen, you know, his painting as, you know, although he wants to see women as, you know, normal, he has such a clouded vision. When he returns to home base, his vision of women is so clouded and so complexly clouded that he can't even see when he's being a misogynist, you know? And as these biases get developed over many, many years, it becomes harder and harder to look past the biases or even see these biases reflected back to us, you know? These biases become our lens for viewing the world. And it's taken us a long time to develop these things, and it becomes so that we you know, we act from these unacknowledged biases. And I think, so going back to my misogyny example, is like, I've always had social anxiety. And I think my own unacknowledged bias against women, you know, misogynistic bias, has affected my ability to meet almost all my other needs, you know, because I always have this like odd bias that I don't realize I have. So moving forward, I guess I've been thinking about this metaphor and about unmet needs and unacknowledged biases. And, you know, I think making sense of my past trauma and talking to therapists and stuff like that, like those kind of steps towards healing, they come from the brain, or they're like a more logical, cerebral process. And I think in order to look at this metaphorical unmet needs and unacknowledged biases, it's not just cerebral. It's something deep and complex that we don't understand fully right now, or maybe I don't understand it fully right now, at least. And you have to go into your body. I think part of this whole, like, painting this screen around our lives, we disconnect from our body. We use these preconceived notions to tune out of our intuition. You know, before we paint around ourselves, we can actually just look out into the world and take it in as it comes to us, you know? And I think people that manage to have an open mind and, you know, like a relatively healed and balanced life, they make an effort to tear down the stuff that they've painted up. You know, we all paint in order to, like, we try to create a sense of safety and understanding around ourselves. But there's value in the unknown, in continuing to learn. So if you go your whole life just painting on your glass, before you know it, your paint will be so full that no light will come through. No, you know, maybe the glass is actually a dome over you. So as you paint and paint and paint, if you don't step back and look why you're painting, what is influencing your painting, what unmet needs are making you paint or are influencing what you're painting right now, If you don't consciously look at your painting and clear space to view the world, like with fresh eyes, you have to keep your glass clean. You have to keep tearing down what you thought you knew and leave space to keep learning. In the beginning, I mentioned a raspberry bush, like you paint a raspberry bush so that you know, hey, I can eat raspberries. But even that, raspberries change every year. I mean, maybe we don't see it year to year, but they're affected every year by different weather patterns, and maybe the bush you eat off of this year won't be as fruitful as the bush that grows 100 yards away. So every year you should be really considering which berry bush you eat from. But if you don't keep yourself in check, if you don't consciously try to keep your glass clear, then you keep going to the same berry bush over and over again. And you act hangry, because you have unacknowledged biases and unmet needs, and you're going to this bush that, really no longer serves you. But you're so convinced by this picture that you've created that this is what you need. So I've been thinking about this metaphor a lot lately, and I'd love to hear if this made any sense to you, and yeah, what you think.